Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, where we take the mystery out of the tarot and help you bring this ancient practice into everyday life. In this podcast, we'll talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So grab your tarot deck, get comfortable, and start your journey to tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter, and welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We've already done an episode focusing on the court cards. We've done 10 episodes, actually, focused on the Minor Arcana. We walked through the Minor Arcana 1 to 10 today. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun with the Major Arcana. We're going to approach it a little bit differently. We talked about kind of the best way to do this, and Bonnie and I thought it would be really interesting for us to each invite a Major Arcana card to dinner and then have a conversation with them. And we thought we'd start first with sort of, open-ended, casual questions, and then ask them for a little bit of tarot guidance, all through the lens of one particular card. So Bonnie and I have each selected a deck. I've actually selected the Ethereal Tarot deck, Luna edition through, that's Matt Hughes' deck. And I pulled out all the Major Arcana cards. Bonnie, what about you? What have you got ready for dinner guests today?
I'm going with Tarot of the Witch's Garden by Sasha Graham. So I too have separated them. So all of my majors are in a pile. And I'm ready.
Yeah. And
I'm excited.
We thought of questions that would, let's call them, icebreaker questions, or, the kind of questions that you might ask if you've got a group of people around a table that don't really know each other and you want to find out a little bit about them. So we used some online tools to be able to gather some questions. And then once we've warmed them up a little bit to the idea, then we're going to ask them for a little bit more tarot-specific guidance style questions. So that'll kind of replace our one-card draw at the end of an episode, but we figure we've entered season 2 now. We're going to get a little risky, get out of our comfort zone, and try things a little bit different. We hope that you enjoy this approach to the majors. Of course, we're each going to draw one card. If we do the math with 22 cards in the Major Arcana, that means that for us to cover the entire Major Arcana, we're going to end up doing 11 episodes that look like this, where we talk to and about each of the cards. So, and we're going to shuffle like we always do with our card draw. We're going to make it random. All right. I'm going to see, who am I inviting to dinner?
I'm nervous.
All right.
Okay, I got to pick my card.
Now, we'd said if we get the same card, we'll reshuffle. All right. I've got the Chariot coming to dinner. I
have the Hanged Man.
Okay.
In this deck, it's the Hanged Woman.
The Hanged Woman. I thought maybe it was the Hanged One. All right. And I selected this deck because I thought in most of the cases, the Major Arcana, the character is quite prominent. So here we go. So I've got the Chariot as my dinner guest. I've invited the Chariot along. Bonnie seems to have invited the Hanged Woman. Should we start with a question?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Do you want me to ask?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
How are we going to do this? Are you asking your major card the question, or am I asking your major card the question?
Well, let me ask. Let's go back and forth. Let me ask my major card, since I brought them to dinner. I'm going to initiate the conversation. And I always think the very first question is so Chariot-like. Anyways, let me ask the Chariot: if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? Now, I can just imagine the Chariot looking at that going, what do you mean? Where would I go? I'd go absolutely anywhere. I'm a bloody Chariot, right? Like, traveling is what I do. I love to move. So I guess, the Chariot would say, look, I would love to go far. Give me a good, solid destination where I'm going to enjoy the journey, where I'm going to be able to spend some time moving. Give me a spot that's going to be challenging to get to as well, because I really do appreciate and rise to the challenge, right? I'm made for strength. I'm made for will. I'm made for battle. So maybe I'm going somewhere that is a little off the beaten path where my chariot gets beaten up a little bit. So, maybe they're doing the Patagonia Trail, or, they're walking through the Andes Mountains in South America. Maybe they're looking to climb K2. Maybe they're heading into the great northern area of our country in Canada, but they would probably be going somewhere that is a good distance away and that presents itself a little bit of a challenge. That's, if I'm answering as the chariot, that's where I'm going. What do you think, Bonnie?
Cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think I want to go for. Okay, so I'm going to ask my card then, right? Where my hanged woman would want to go, right? Okay. So, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? So, in this particular deck, she's kind of hanging in like a swampy, she's hanging from a tree, and it looks kind of like, yeah, I guess kind of not swampy, but like there's water. She's above the water. She's hanging from a tree with like a lot of sort of like hanging.
Yeah, that's like Spanish moss kind of look.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to think like a willow tree or something like that, like something that looks like that. So right away, I thought about, I'm like, oh, okay. So, if we think about the hanged man or the hanged woman in this case, it's like, it's a time to pause and to really reflect. And seeing this card, I'm like, I could see her in Mexico. I'm gonna go with like the jungles of Mexico. And last year, or actually just this past spring, oh no, this was last year, sorry. We went to a cave. So it was called a cenote. So it has these like natural springs, and then they're in these caves. So I could see the hanged woman sort of hanging upside down, maybe from some type of support in this cave, almost like a bat, because there's a lot of bats in these caves too. And really having like time to be like, I'm going to chill out here because this is like a really sacred, peaceful place. So they do look at those spaces as really sacred and going to really immerse themselves in the beauty of that water and the energy that's there. So I'm going to say my hanged woman is going to want to hang out in a cave like a cenote in Mexico.
All right.
What do you think, Peter? Do you think that's a good idea?
I do. When you kind of the Spanish moss and the trees, I was thinking like Savannah, Georgia, or somewhere, in those spaces like that. But I love that idea of hanging somewhere in a cave like a bat. That's brilliant. All right, now we've got travel ideas. Travel with the tarot. That could be.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Right. Travel with the tarot.
That could be a future episode.
Future episode. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to ask the next question? You want to go first this time?
Oh, okay. I know I'm nervous now because I'm like, oh, what are we going to ask? Okay. Do you have a favorite book or movie you recommend to everyone? Oh, Hanged Woman, favorite book or movie?
It would be hard.
Yeah, this is tough. It's not like I can think about, like a meditation book, right? Like the Hanged Woman wants to read something by like a monk or like who's the famous, I'm going to say his name wrong. Not Hunt. Well, oh my goodness. I have his books and I can't say his name.
Pema but.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like reading a book that's really helping you to, again, go inward and to reflect and to pause and to really, when we think about meditation or these practices that help us, be more in the present moment, we can see things differently. And that's really the messaging of the Hanged Man. So she would be interested, I think, in more about like learning how to be able to pause and learning how to be able to see things differently. So I know that's a cop-out because it's not the actual name of a book, but I should go and find my book so I can like be better prepared with the author.
No, see, and I was thinking movie because movie probably worked, and I was thinking of something that plays with the concept of time as well, because it is, the Hanged Woman would be a card where time sort of stops. You had said, the idea of a different perspective. So I thought of Inception. I thought of the movie Inception, which completely takes the concept of reality or the show Stranger Things, where you've got the idea of
Oh,
the upside
the
down,
upside down. Yes,
right?
you're right.
The idea of the
But
upside
that's a
down.
scary place. You don't want to go to the upside down world.
But sometimes, though, pausing and looking at some things differently initially is a scary place as well, right? So, that's kind of
That's
where I
true.
was thinking.
That's true.
Because I have the advantage of asking the question second. I know the question's coming up. I can think about it. And I thought, do you have a favorite book or movie you recommend? Everyone is The Chariot. And I'm thinking, well, Chariots of Fire would probably be, an obvious recommendation. And Academy Award winning movie as well. But I thought an old classic movie like Rudy might be another one that would be a movie that The Chariot would recommend. I also think, The Chariot might recommend, what was the movie? The one about the Williams sisters, King with, can't, anyways, but a movie that has something to do with the power of will and the challenge of kind of moving forward. So, Open by Andre Agassi, like any, book that would be about, a biography, an autobiography about a sports figure, for example, would be a great one. Again, anything about the Williams sisters would be, another book that would be a fantastic recommendation by The Chariot. So
I love that. I was thinking too, well, the first one that popped into my head, which kind of isn't Chariot-like, but Speed. Remember the movie Speed,
the
where they
movie
were on
Speed,
that bus
totally.
that wouldn't stop?
Yeah.
Mind you, that's
Sandra
not
Bullock and Keanu Reeves, right?
Keanu Reeves. Yeah, but then
Hello,
I was
Canadian.
thinking too, when you were thinking about, like the sense of adventure, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It's kind of that, like, I'm going on a quest to find this, and it's going to be scary, but he had the will and the determination to do that. So that would be kind of fun.
And then when you
too.
think about it, any quest-based movie as well, right? So, anything that follows that idea of the fool's journey, since, The Chariot is the fool kind of stepping out away from home for the very first time.
Yeah.
All right.
Love
so I
it.
guess I have to ask the next question as well for going that way. This, again, easy though for me, right? What's your go-to comfort food? I'm The Chariot, takeout. Doesn't matter doesn't matter what it is, but it's something that, I got to go in my car or I have to walk to go to a window and, and bring it back. So I think it's any food that, is mobile. Maybe I'll go with the obvious choice. I'll go with pizza only because it actually looks like the Chariot's wheel as well. But yeah, Charioteer is going to say, look, my comfort food is anything I don't have to make myself. Anything that can come to me on four wheels. Yeah.
I love that, Peter. I wasn't even thinking that, but I love that perspective. Of course, that makes total sense.
Right? I'm The Chariot. I don't know.
The Chariot.
I got busy things. I'm busy. I got
I'm
too many
busy.
things to do.
I got things to do.
Things to do, and places to go. Give me my food to go, please.
I love that. Okay, so my hanged woman, what's your go-to comfort food? I'm gonna take a page out of your book and not go with a specific food, but I would say, because when we think about the hanged man or the hanged woman, it's like this time of pausing. We're not rushing to do anything. So I would say like a tasting menu, like a wine pairing and tasting, because that's quite a long experience, and you're often tasting things that maybe you hadn't done before, right? And then being like, oh, I love how this wine pairs with this food. That's kind of like a new perspective. So I'm going to go the route of a little bougie and doing like a really nice wine tasting pairing menu where you get to relax. It's not rushed, and you get to really allow that new perspective to come in.
Yeah, do not dismiss the food tasting experience for those that are privileged enough to be able to. I think I talked to you about not that long ago having wanted to do a special gift for my son who turned 30. So I took him to Europe, to in and around where I used to live in Western Europe. So we did all kinds of different places, and we managed to get to a Michelin star restaurant, which I booked ahead of time, called Omar Diab in Paris. And we did just that. We did a 7-course tasting menu with wine, and you're absolutely right. Like the combination of flavor, like the food itself, you're not walking out of there being necessarily satiated like you would by wolfing down a massive Chariot style pizza, but it's an experience. It's one that causes you to have to pause at every step, and then staff come out and they explain what the food is, and they give you the wine, and then gives you a chance to stop and think about it. Anyway, sorry, I rained on your parade there, but
No, not at all.
when you said the
That's
tasting, I'm like, that's exactly like it is very much a Hanged Woman experience that you're pausing in time. And the reason I was going there is because our reservations were at 8 o'clock at night. We left the restaurant just after 11:45. Like, and we were, like it was an experience. It was almost 4 hours of a dinner experience. So you're absolutely right. That would have been the Hanged Woman's recommendation for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for validating that.
Yeah. No. I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so I guess I'm up now. So, do you collect anything or have an unusual interest? So, Hanged Woman. I'm going to say, because if you think about maybe hanging upside down, not that I've done this personally, but you can go to these places and do these. It's like not ribbons; they're like thick fabrics that you can hang from.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to say the Hanged Woman probably has a room in her house where she has these like beautiful fabric things that she can use to hang upside down. That's what she's going to collect.
All right.
Or be interested in. Like, that's part of her practice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm
it
talking
totally
about?
does. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking gravity boots, but I know what you mean.
Oh.
Like
Or those machines. I was just talking about this with somebody. You go in one of those apparatuses and then it flips you upside down.
Yeah.
And you hang there and it feels really, really good.
No,
Maybe she collects those too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she probably has, as far as like an unusual interest. I could see her doing that whole ribbon thing. I think you hit the nail right on the head there.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as the chariot, full well what the chariot.
Oh yeah, I know what the chariot's collecting.
The chariot's either collecting old cars. So the chariot has a garage somewhere with old cars, or they've got old motorcycles. There's some kind of old vintage vehicle collection for the chariot, and they're fast. Speed would be the one characteristic for this collection. So yeah, it's either it's either a motorcycle or it's a car, but they're quick. So
they're quick. Yep. They're probably a big fan of like F1 or NASCAR, Indy, all that. Yeah.
As my son, likes to talk about, what's the big cheer for, NASCAR? Oh, look, another right turn. And here they go. Look, another right turn. But Chariot's a big fan. So for those of you who are not trying to be insulting, but the Chariot is right there with you, cheering on F1, cheering on NASCAR.
We're huge F1 fans, but also NASCAR. Like Daytona 500 is a big deal in my house. We start planning what we're going to eat, and we have a pool, like a pool of who we think is going to win. So we go all out for the Daytona 500. Okay. So that's a big thing in my house.
So you knew what the Chariot was going to collect before I even said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you're like, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course he's going to collect cars and even motorcycles. I had that in my head too. So definitely on the same page. I love that.
All right. So for the Chariot, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day? You know what? The Chariot loves to slow things down a little bit. It jumps on their bike and away they go. And they try, because they're trying to unwind now. Been a pretty busy day. They're probably going to hit a rail trail or a bike trail of some kind so that they don't have, just trying to, if they're going to quiet the mind, they still need to be moving, but they need to be moving at a bit of a slower pace. So, if they were being unique, then maybe they're taking a unicycle out, but they're going out, shifting away from the power of the horse and kind of bringing the speed back to, the power of their own will, but doing it slower, just that slow ride. Maybe they, if they live in a climate like we do, then, and it's wintertime, then, they got a stationary bike inside, but they're taking a nice leisurely bike ride. That's the Chariot's favorite way to unwind.
Okay, so Hanged Woman, what's her favorite way to unwind after a long day? It's so funny. We got opposites. You realize that, right? You got Chariot, which is like
true. That's right.
Full speed, and I have like pause and reflect. So because she pauses a lot during the day, like that's her thing.
Hmm?
I'm going to say she needs a little bit of movement at the end of the day. So she may do some type of yoga, like a gentle restorative type yoga practice. Just it's still, time to reflect, but there's also a little bit of movement there because we don't just want to hang all the time. So yeah, I'm going to say she likes to rest or unwind with a little gentle yoga.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yoga would make sense for the Hanged
Well,
Woman.
it's funny. When I see the Hanged Man, that's my downward facing
Yeah.
dog card. So I tell people, I'm like, when you're in downward facing dog, like everything is upside down. And that's how like we see the world, like it allows you to see the world from a different perspective. So then I always attribute that to that card because I'm like, we can do that in everyday life and just, look at things upside down. Okay.
I lost track now. Is it?
We're on song or artist. Like, what's a
Okay.
song or artist you've been listening to lately?
Okay.
I'm not-
Well, if I'm the Chariot, I'm probably listening to Fast Cars, whether it's Tracy Chapman's original version or again, not a country music fan, but I know that the song actually had been redone and re-released by a country artist. I'm listening to I'm probably listening to it based on its theme, but I'm not likely listening to it because the song itself doesn't really have that fast. Well, I guess it does. It's got a bit of slow, and then in the chorus or the pre-chorus, and the chorus kind of picks up its beat a little bit. So I'm probably, but the title, is perfect for the Chariot. Oh, I'm likely listening to that. I might be listening to Bicycles by Queen. That would be another sort of vehicle song. And then I could go.
You almost
really,
had me break out in song for a minute there, Peter. I'm like, nobody wants to hear that, Bonnie.
Weren't you going to do it? And then, if I got look, music is my thing. Certainly, music of my era. So, Man in a White Car by Yes, which is a complete deep cut. Could be another one that that are on the Chariot's playlist. So maybe that's a question for next time. It's like what would the top 10 songs be on your on your streaming playlist? That's
Yeah, we definitely have to do more if we want to be like 100% with what we're thinking. We would need more time for that. We would do the research before.
Well, for music, no, because again, I was just thinking Cars by Gary Newman. There's all kinds of stuff that the Chariot,
A little ZZ Top. Don't they have cars in their videos, right?
Absolutely. There you go. Right there you go. And yeah, anything by ZZ Top because they've got. I think the car is called the Eliminator. That makes it their way into their videos. So there you go. So people who are listening, you're getting a good sense. You're meeting the Major Arcana through some very different lenses. So, but I'll just add, this is actually a really good way to be able to learn about the cards, is to be able to, and we've done this before. We did this with the courts, is to kind of personify them, is to give them little bits and pieces of humanity. And then it's different from memorizing a whole bunch of keywords. You actually provide a little bit of personality to the cards and have a bit of fun with it too, right? Like in what song or artist that the Hanged Woman is going to be listening to.
I know, right? Okay, I'm going to date myself here a little bit, and I may be wrong because I'm trying to go based on memory, but I think there's a band called Delirium. I think it's Delirium, and they do a song with Sarah McLachlan. And I can't remember the name of the song, but their music is so like different, but amazing. Like when you hear it, it really evokes, like you can feel it in your body. And there's a lot of like chanting, like Gregorian chanting, if that's the right terminology, in their music too. But it's very like electronic type music. I loved them. I mean, I still love them. I haven't listened to them in quite some time, but it's like that transported me. And when I would listen to that music, because it was different and not sort of things that you would hear all the time, it just, again, had this different perspective of like, this is still music, but I feel like I'm in another world, or it's not the typical thing that I listen to all the time. I did listen to it quite often when I was younger, but I like in the I'm going to say like late 90s, early 2000s, but it's probably out in the mid to late 90s. And I love them. So I have, I think, 2 or 3 of their albums. Remember when albums were a thing?
Albums, yes,
Well, not
yes.
albums, but like the CD version, but when we referred to them as albums.
CD, what is that? Sorry,
What is a
CD?
CD? Hey, I went to a restaurant with some friends this past week, and there was a band playing live, and they're like, "Oh, we today is the release of our new album," and they had CDs there that they could purchase, and we're like, "Oh, do they know about Spotify or Apple?" Like,
The challenge would
like,
be, what would you play? I don't think I have anything where I would play a CD on. I think I've got an old disk drive somewhere. I don't know what I do.
yeah, we're like, "Oh, how would you listen to that?"
Yeah. Oh no, I think my car might still have a CD drive in it.
We have CD players at home. We could listen to them, but our cars don't have them, so that would be a problem. But yeah, it was kind of funny. They're like, you can buy the CD, and we're like, oh, okay. Has anybody told them?
I know. I will do that sometimes just to support a local band, because I know sometimes getting your music streamed, like the money that you make from streaming, if you can monetize it at all, and you have to meet certain criteria, is pretty small. But anyways, we digress.
We digress. Yes.
We were going to give, now that we've got them kind of warmed up, we know a little bit about them. We know about their, where they want to go, what they like to read, what they like to listen to, what they like to watch. We're going to ask them a little bit of guidance now, because, we've got Major Arcana players here sitting around the table. That we would be losing an opportunity if we don't ask them some kind of guidance question. So you want me to, I'll ask the first question.
Sure.
Okay. So we want to know, I want to know what patterns do I keep repeating and why? Oh, can I ask that to the Hanged Woman? What do you think she'll give me some guidance?
Oh, okay. So you're asking my card, and then I'll ask your card. Okay, I love that. Thanks, Peter. Okay, Peter. What pattern do you keep repeating and why? If you got the Hanged Woman, I would say being really, really busy and not taking enough time for reflection or to pause. Sometimes not that we rush into things, but sometimes we just do things without maybe taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. So I would say the Hanged Woman would be inviting or saying that there might be a pattern of doing too much and not resting enough or not pausing enough. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you?
Thank you. And to you, Hanged Woman, I appreciate your guidance. I thank you for being so, I was going to say being so guidance. Yes, but forthcoming with your guidance. I thank you, especially for, two people sitting around a dinner table that we've just met. Oh, I appreciate
that we've just met. Yeah. Like I think she would say, it's okay to pause once in a while. And I think to give ourselves permission to do that is tough, right? Because we're always doing.
Yes. Fair enough. Great advice. Great advice from the Hanged Woman.
Okay. So Mr. Chariot.
Yes.
What pattern do I keep repeating and why?
Well, you have the opposite problem. So the pattern that you keep repeating is that, you're in this fire ready aim state, that movement happens sometimes before thought happens, that, you're being driven by will, and you're being driven by perhaps even thrill. So will and thrill, which kind of drive forward movement. Why? Well, it might be that, that warrior mentality is at the center of who you are. It might be the thrill of moving forward just for the sake of moving. So this is the advice that the Chariot would give. And why? It might be because there's that thrill, that's there. If the Chariot was going to provide advice about breaking that particular pattern, about that repetition, then I would remind people that the Chariot card is actually the card of Cancer, and that the Chariot might say it's time for you to look home for those sources that might help you slow down. So, you've
Mm.
got that repetition, that pattern of repetition, that idea of continuously moving, looking for that next thing, wanting to move from one thing to the next. Why? Well, it might be because, of an inert desire just to move. It might be that that's will that's driving you. It might be that, sort of internal charioteer. It might be a little bit of emotional immaturity as well. Remember that the chariot's, kind of at the beginning of a journey.
Mm.
What do you do about that? You kind of look to the Cancerian side of things. You perhaps go into that emotional side, that water-based place, or, Cancer represents home. So maybe you look for that security of home that might, those things that ground you a little bit more, the things that, stop you from going out into the world might be, what you need to help break that pattern. That's through the lens of
Makes
the
a lot
chariot.
of sense. It's
Through
like the squirrel. It's like the shiny object.
Right. Exactly. Squirrel. Oh, right. Well, as somebody who, I wouldn't sit having a conversation with a window behind me because I'd be doing this and my attention would be drawn just for a moment, but it would be drawn. Oh, I'm terrible at that. So I would be taking the charioteer's advice and looking for ways to be able to ground myself in that space and in that moment. So
I love that. Thank you, Peter.
you're welcome. Don't thank me. Thank the chariot.
Oh, thank you,
No,
Chariot.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, do we want to do the next
Sure.
question?
Yeah. Do you want to switch order and you can ask? You can
Sure.
ask the chariot. All right.
Okay, so thank you for that advice. I definitely see that pattern in myself. What's the next step that I'm not seeing?
Well, if
I
I
think you
received
kind
the
of, did you answer that a
chariot,
little bit?
kind of, but the chariot, as far as the next step, you're not seeing. The chariot would be you're missing the end goal. So as far as what are you not seeing? You're not seeing the destination. You're so caught up in the journey itself. And that
Yes.
might not be a bad thing. That might be that you're enjoying the journey. But if you're asking, well, what am I not seeing? That if the chariot came up, it would be like, well, might be time for you just to sit down and say, okay, I'm enjoying this journey, but where am I going? Right? What is that? What's that end destination? So in this case, the next step, the step you're not seeing is the destination, is where you're headed. That's what the chariot would say.
And that makes so much sense because I do get caught up so much in the journey of like, how am I going to get there? I lose sight of the end goal. So I appreciate that insight. Thank you, Chariot. That is very bang on.
Well, you're very welcome. And to the Hanged Woman, I have the same question. What's the next step that I'm not seeing?
Yeah. Okay. So she would encourage you really to pause, right? To pause and reflect. And sometimes when we do that, there's also this sense of like surrender, right? With the hanged man or the hanged woman. It's not so much surrendering like I give up. It's almost like, okay, I can't really move forward right now, even though I might want to. What I need to do right now is just pause and see the situation again from a different perspective. Give myself time to get clarity, because when we're still and we create space for silence, that's where clarity comes in. So when we're busy doing all the time, like the mind is always thinking and trying to problem solve and do all this stuff. But until we actually reflect and take time, that's where we get clarity, right? And we can see that in a lot of iterations of the Hanged Man. There's that illumination around the head when they're hanging upside down. It's like that's when clarity comes. So she would really say, Peter, just take a step back for a minute and see how that feels, even if it doesn't feel good sometimes. And yeah, try to see it from a different perspective.
It's interesting how the innate advice from, like, we almost have two cards, I think you mentioned this, that would almost provide, diametrically opposed guidance from these questions. So pretty good. Pretty good. Thank you. Thank you, Hanged Woman. I appreciate your guidance.
You're welcome. I hope it was helpful.
Okay. I have another question though to ask you, if that's
okay.
That's okay. So
Yes.
what will support me to move forward?
Yeah, I think what would be helpful in terms of, the Hanged Man, this isn't like pausing and reflecting and resting isn't just something that happens once in a while. I think if you can incorporate that into some type of daily routine or weekly routine where you actually take an intentional pause and be like, okay, it could even be in situations where we get really anxious or heated about something. It's like, in this moment, can I pause and take a breath and sort of step away from the situation? So she would probably tell you to say, hey, go work with Bonnie. She can help you meditate. I'm just kidding. It doesn't always have to be about like a long meditation practice, but I would say, or she would say, incorporating more time for reflection and even a little bit of silence to be like, okay, I'm just going to sit here for a few breaths. I'm going to notice how I feel. And then the more you start to do that, the more you start to see things from a different perspective all the time, not just when you're taking moments to be still and to rest. So I think she would say trying to incorporate that more on a regular basis, but actually doing those practices intentionally when you really need to step away for a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate that guidance. Thank you. Thank you, Hank.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Mr. Chariot, what would support me to move forward?
Well, as the Chariot, I'm all about moving forward. So if you ask this question and the Chariot's providing a response, is saying you don't really need support moving forward, that your momentum is taking you forward anyways. But what the Chariot would remind you of is that the vehicle that you're using to propel yourself forward, so whether that's you and your body, if it's an activity of some kind that's causing you to move forward, if it's work-oriented relationship, project, it would be check the health of that. Make sure that the vehicle that is propelling you forward is as healthy as it can be, because nothing worse than moving forward with a broken Chariot. So again, what would support you from moving forward? The Chariot is about forward movement. So it would be, check what it is that's moving forward. Check yourself, check your environment, check the people that you're with, and make sure that everything is prepared for that forward journey. So, metaphorically, pack your food, pack your suitcase, check the oil, check the tire pressure, all of those things. That's the advice the Chariot would give. Check your vehicle.
I love that. It makes total sense. Because if your vehicle isn't,
right.
if your vehicle needs gas or an oil change, it's not going to move as good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to say though, when we talk about the idea of getting ourselves out of our comfort zone, trying to, and I urge some of you who are practicing the tarot, try this exercise. Try looking at the response of questions through the lens of one particular card. It's a really interesting learning exercise because you really do have to, you've sort of got to take on that mindset a little bit and think, well, what would the Chariot say? What would the Hanged Woman say? So.
Okay,
Right.
so should we?
One last question.
Yeah.
So all right, I'll ask. So to you, Hanged Woman, I asked, what is blocking me or challenging me right now?
Okay. So the Hanged Woman would respond, you're an extremely creative person in a lot of areas of your life. And because the Hanged Man is the number 12, and if we break the 12 down, that's a 3, and the 3 is about creation. And a lot of times when we're always active, mind active, doing things, it can be difficult to be creative. We may have this is my problem. I have a million ideas, but it's about how do I bring that idea to life? So I think what might be blocking you is that if you do want to be more creative or bring these creative ideas into reality, you want to manifest those ideas, this is what's going to help you to do that, to pause and to give those ideas time to develop, as opposed to always coming from like this active energy, right? So we can have creative energy in times of stillness, because again, that's when we get clarity. And that's like, oh my God, I have this idea, but how am I going to do that? When we sort of pause and have that silence and stillness, you could come up with an entire plan in like 30 seconds because it's downloading quickly because you're giving it the space to do that. So if you want to be creative, Peter, I, suggest some more quiet practices and time to reflect on that.
You want me to?
This was fun.
You want me to try the same question for you?
We just did that. Did we not?
Okay.
I think so, right?
I think so too. You're right. All right.
Yes.
It was fun. I agree. So for those of you that are listening, this was an experiment that Bonnie and I were trying. We want to try and approach the tarot, as we've said from the get-go, have a different approach to the tarot, make it certainly less intimidating and more accessible. We wanted to try an episode focusing on the Major Arcana for quite some time. And we thought that this would be an interesting and unique way to go about it. We're curious to know what you think. So a couple of things. Let us know, please, in the comments below. If you like this podcast, we definitely would love for you to like it, to share, to give us a nice positive comment. If you have some questions that you think might be appropriate for future episodes to ask the Major Arcana, put those in the comment section below as well. Again, Bonnie and I selected some questions to ask, but obviously there's an infinite list of questions to be able to ask. So we would love to ask a Major Arcana card on your behalf what kind of question you think it might be appropriate to ask them, either as a dinner guest or as tarot guidance. Oh, There you go. Bonnie, where can people find you? Or what do you have? What have you got coming up?
What have I got coming up? Okay. So on May the 28th, I have an online class coming up. It's called Meet the High Priestess. So in this class, we're going to take a deep dive into the energy of the High Priestess. We're going to pull some cards, ask her some questions, or ask questions related to the energy of the High Priestess. And then at the end, I'll be guiding the group through a meditation where you actually get to meet the High Priestess. So if you're interested in that, you can, check it out we have a brand new website.
Yes.
It's called Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. You can catch all of our episodes there. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, or you want to learn a little bit more about Peter, you can do that through the website, and then you can find out what we each have going on through the links that are there. But that's what I have going on. How about you, Peter? What do you have going on?
The big upcoming thing I've got going on is the first of the series of 12 called The Cards of the Zodiac, which is the cards of Cancer. That's on June 7th, my time. So, kind of Toronto, New York time. What will be a unique look at all the cards associated to the sign of Cancer. So that's the Major Arcana cards, the pips, the courts, and kind of look at what their story tells sort of through that Cancer lens, and then look at ways that you can practically use the energy of those cards throughout Cancer season. Now, of course, this is the first of a series of 12. You find out an awful lot more about that at either my website, peterwhitetarot.com, or as Bonnie mentioned, through the link in the About Me section at tarotwithbonnieandpeter.com. So that's the biggie. Always looking to support students through mentoring. I will also have a new live cohort of my beginners class starting in September. So a few things in the works right now, and always working on my History of the Tarot 3-part class. So, I think the problem is, trying to put too much information in. I think I said, I wanted it to start in Q2, and it's like, history is something I'm passionate about, and I want to make sure it's as accurate as possible. So this one's a real passion project. I won't let this thing go until I'm very, very happy with it. So those are all the things that are happening right now.
Okay, so we want to thank everybody for being with us on Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, and we will see you next time. Take care.